Well, all right, today it's a beautiful day, warmed up a little bit. It's above freezing at least, so that's nice. I'm finally getting my traps dyed today. And, you know, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I'm not saying I have the best way, but it works pretty dang good. I've got all my traps hanging up here on a board, so they're real easy. They're all bundled together with wire, and I got that little bit of wire just long enough. And so obviously here's my pot where I'm boiling them in. So I got about 30 gallons of water in here, and it's sitting in a big metal sleeve, so it keeps the heat in. On the back side here, I've got a door where I can open up and fuel it with wood. So what this does, it keeps a lot of heat in, which is really nice for wood consumption. I probably only burn about 10 to 15 logs for about 4 hours in here, and that water is just below boiling. So with this sleeve, it keeps a lot of that heat in. If you just had this pot hanging here and an open fire, well, one, then you have to worry more about wind coming in and blowing out your fire, and two, you're losing a lot of heat. Right here, I've got a little vent just so the smoke can get out, so it ain't all coming up through the barrel. But other than that, this setup works really nice. So I come here, I grab my traps, sling them in here. I've got a bunch in here. All my conibears are in here right now. And I just hook the wires on these two knobs so that they're easy to pull out. I don't have to fish around in here looking for the traps. I know they're all connected to the wire. I pull the wire out and I go hang them back up. So that makes that really nice. I've got all my traps up hanging here. And this year, I've done a couple different ways of dyeing in the past. Usually I use walnuts because I can get them for free. They're laying all over underneath trees. But this year I didn't have much time, which is why I'm dyeing my traps so late this year. Been working quite a bit and still not done, but we had a little too much snow to be working in the fields today. So anyway, this year I'm using the logwood dye. I've used it in the past, and it works really well. So that's what's going up this year, and it works just fine. It dyes. It doesn't get them quite as dark as the walnuts do, but still works good. So I got my water hot first. So I get my water hot, got my fire going, got it, good bed of embers going. Now you don't want it too hot that it's boiling. You don't want the water boiling. If the water's boiling, it's gonna soften your traps too much. You do not want that. But once I got it hot, dumped my trap dye in, that powder, mixed it in real good. See on top, there's just a little bit of foam. Underneath, it's real nice and black. So that'll dye real good. Other than that, there's not much to it. One thing, you set them in there, give them about an hour to get a real good dye on. The conibears I leave in there probably 45 minutes. They really, in all actuality, they don't really need to be dyed, but I like having them dyed. It takes care of the rust for a little while longer than usual. So I'll keep those in there for about 45 minutes. I've got a lot of number 2s and 550s. Those will go in there for a solid hour, good hour. I've got some here that haven't been dyed yet before. Obviously some older ones that have been dyed multiple times. They'll all go in there for a good hour, except for any brand new traps. Any brand new traps, I won't put in until the very end, because the brand new traps still have the oil on, and I want to boil that off. The brand new traps, they're not going to take on any dye. They're going to boil the oil off, so they don't need to be in there as long. But since they don't have any rust, the trap dye is not actually going to stick to the trap, because the trap dye, this logwood dye, works in where the rust is. So obviously here I got a bunch of 1.5s. I just laminated these recently, so that'll all dye up real nice, take care of the color. And these are all nice and rusty. More 1.5s. These are some number 1s Victor stop loss. Those, I don't always dye those, but I will this year just because I've got a little bit of time here today. And that's the way it really works. You probably can't see me because I'm getting smoked out. But one thing for sure, no matter what kind of setup you have for boiling your traps, obviously most won't be able to get their hands on this cast iron, a huge cast iron pot that holds 40 gallons of water and a big metal drum. I was lucky enough to get this from someone who trapped before me. But one easy thing you could do is you get a 55-gallon drum, a steel drum. You cut it in half. That bottom half with the bottom on it is your drum. You use the top half as walls for your drum. So you get your pot set up. If you can, you get like a nice welded metal frame for it to sit on. If not, you got to get some cinder blocks or some concrete blocks or something to get it up off the ground, or else you have to get a chain and hang it, which is kind of the last resort. But anyway, you take the top half of your barrel and you make a wall around the bottom to keep that heat in by your traps and keep the wind. Today, it's a beautiful day, there's no wind, but if it is windy, you got to keep that wind out of there. Use that top half of that drum as a wind guard and heat protection around your wood. So when you're burning your fire, you use very little wood. I have 1 pallet of wood here, and I've been using it for the past 4 years, and it's not even half gone yet. And it really doesn't take much, 10, maybe 15 logs at most, and I burned, for a good number of hours. So that's all I really wanted to say today. But I'll just bring you up close and show you around this setup here. So we'll do that quick. All right, so now you can see what we're working with. I've got my vent coming out the side here. I used to have a pipe going up to take the smoke away, but it's kind of annoying, gets in the way. So just down here, got a nice door to keep my fire in. And you can see there's actually not much of a fire going, but it does keep it plenty hot. I have actually plenty of problems where this starts boiling and then I have to dump water on the fire to get it to stop boiling. So you don't want it to be boiling, but that's why I don't use many logs. Here I've got my traps hung up, and they're all on wires, like I said. So I take this wire and I bring it and hook it right on here. I just have this random trap sticking in there, which is no big deal because it's conibear. But I got my wires with all the traps in the die. So that's a top-notch setup. If you can find a setup like that, that'd be great. Underneath here, I've got it sitting on bricks off the ground. One, so it doesn't sink in the ground, because this is 100 and some pounds of weight sitting on there with the water and the cast iron crate. So otherwise it would just sink in the ground. But also, you have to have room for air to get underneath there. If air is not getting in there, you're not going to have a good fire. Which is, when I'm getting this going at first, I'll actually leave this open. It'll get more air and it'll get hotter. When I don't want it so hot, close it up. So that's how this trapping's gonna go. This is how I dye my traps. Works great every year. And if you can get one of these, let me tell you, I definitely would. But here's the pallet of wood I've been using for 4 years now. I think it's been, yeah, probably 4 years. I split just a pile of wood, and I barely even touched the back, and I've had just a cone here of wood that I've used. That's a bunch of oak that I don't use because it's always wet. But trapping stakes, the conibears always hang here. They're in the dye now. I've got a few snares left over from last year I'll throw in there and dye again. And then all my traps are over there. So good luck to everyone trapping. Hopefully this helps make sure you get your traps dyed. Obviously this isn't the only way. There's that Speed Dip, which I don't know if I really like it too much because it uses gasoline, which obviously smells. So I don't know how well that actually distills out of there. But I've never had a problem with this. I can't say if Speed Dip works or not because I've never used it. But one thing I recommend, not painting your traps. I see people paint their traps, and no matter how long you air out your traps, that paint always has an odor. That paint holds odor. It holds odor. It'll pick up odor, and two, it has its own odor. Odor. So don't paint your traps. I see people doing that, and that's not a good idea. Sure, they catch stuff, but I guarantee they have problems with animals avoiding it because they can smell it. They'll say, well, they're not being dug up. Yes, the animals will not necessarily dig it up, but they will avoid it. I've had a friend of mine who used to paint his traps, and it did not work. He took paint stripper, stripped all the paint off he had about 3 dozen traps he painted, stripped it all off, and then dyed them, and had a lot better success the next year. So these have been in here for about 15 minutes now. I'll give these another half hour or so. and then I'll do my other traps. I only have a half dozen new traps this year, which is good. I don't need any more for now. And then I'll do those at the end. And then the stakes, I usually just stick in with the tops in after the fire goes out and lets it cold die. And I sometimes do that with these traps, but we'll see how much time I have here today. So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for watching.